There's a ghost town hidden high in the Montana mountains, a place wiped off every map long ago. They say it was built on silver and destroyed by something that came down from the trees. Few remember the story, but for those who do, they know some places were never meant to be found. There's a ghost town hidden high in the Montana mountains, not far from the borders of Yellowstone National Park. Few people have heard of it, and even fewer have ever laid eyes on it. The only road leading in and out of the place crumbled away decades ago. Now, the only way to reach it is by foot, a rough, winding climb that demands at least an intermediate level of mountaineering skill. And even if you have that, you can only make the journey during a brief window each year, when the ground is dry and the weather stable. For the rest of the year, the mountain claims it back, buried under snow, rain, and mist. My grandfather was the first person to ever tell me about it. He wasn't a man who liked tall tales. He was quiet, steady, the kind of man who only spoke when he had something worth saying. But there was a gravity in his voice when he mentioned that town, a kind of sadness, or maybe fear. He told me there used to be a silver mine up in those mountains, and that a small town had once sprung up around it, a handful of wooden houses, a saloon, a general store, just enough to keep the miners fed and sheltered. But there was something else there too, something that didn't want to share the forest. According to the story, the miners called it the thing in the trees. They didn't have a name for it, just stories whispered around the fire about shadows that moved on their own, and about the sounds that echoed through the timber at night. My grandfather said it wasn't a bear, it wasn't a wolf either. Whatever it was, it made sure the town didn't last long. One winter, something came down from the trees. By the time the snows melted, the place was empty. The miners gone, their families vanished, and only a graveyard left behind. No one ever rebuilt. No one ever went back. Last summer, Taylor, my girlfriend, and I decided to take a week off and camp in Yellowstone. We'd both been craving a break from the noise of work, school, and city life. The week turned out perfect, clear skies, quiet nights, and not another soul around for miles. We went completely off-grid. No phones, no internet, nothing but the two of us and the wilderness. On our last night, we built a fire beneath a canopy of stars. The flames whispered in the cool air, and the forest seemed to listen with us. That's when I told her about my grandfather's story, the one about the lost mining town. She listened in silence, her face half lit by firelight. When I finished, she smiled faintly. "That's where we'll go next summer," she said. And just like that, a plan was made. Winter dragged on longer than usual. But through the storms and short days, that promise that we'd go kept me going. When the snow finally began to melt, I felt the same kind of giddy anticipation had as a kid before summer break. We spent weeks gathering gear, maps, and whatever scraps of information we could find about the rumored location. But there wasn't much. Even the park rangers admitted they'd never been up there. One of them pointed to a general area on a map and said, if it exists, it'd be somewhere around there. That was good enough for us. We drove as far as the dirt road would take us, winding between mountains now stripped of snow and bursting with color. Deep greens, rocky browns, streaks of blue from distant streams. Eventually, the road faded into gravel, then into little more than a trail. Taylor pulled over, killed the engine, and the world went quiet. We stepped out into crisp mountain air. It was cool but fresh, that kind of silence that feels alive. With our packs on, we started climbing. The higher we went, the fewer trees there were. The spruce thinned, giving way to rocky shoulders and narrow passes. We followed a trail that barely existed, sometimes losing it completely and having to guess our way forward. My grandfather's directions had been vague. "It's up there somewhere," he said with a distant look in his eyes. When I told him about our plans, he smiled at first, then his face darkened. "Be careful up there," he'd said quietly. "Some places don't like to be found." I laughed it off at the time. I wish I hadn't. By late afternoon, we were making good progress. Taylor checked the map and said if we kept our pace, we'd reach the town before sunset. Then we hit a wall of rock, a vertical face that blocked the entire trail. There was no way around except for a long detour down and around the slope. It cost us hours. By the time we found a decent clearing, the sun was dipping low. We decided to make camp and finish the climb in the morning. From our campsite, we could see a wide plain in the distance. That was where the town was supposed to be. The trees there looked thick, unnaturally so, almost like they were huddling together against the cold. As night fell, we lay beside the fire, watching for shooting stars. It didn't matter if we found the ghost town or not. We were there, in the quiet heart of the mountains, and that felt like enough. Sometime after midnight, Taylor shook me awake. Her eyes were wide, reflecting the dying embers of the fire. "Did you hear that?" she whispered. I blinked, still half asleep. "Hear what?" She said she'd heard something. A branch snapping, not a small one either, but a loud, sharp crack like a tree limb breaking under weight. Before I could answer, she pointed. "There, look." Up beyond the trees, near the horizon, a light flickered. Faint, yellowish, unsteady. At first I thought it was a reflection, maybe moonlight catching on metal. But no, it pulsed gently, like a candle in a window, except out here, there were no windows, and no people. We watched in silence, the wind moving softly through the trees. "It's probably a campfire," I said, though my voice didn't sound convinced. "Hunters, maybe," she shook her head. "Nobody hunts up here." Neither of us said it aloud, but we both knew the light was in the same direction we were heading tomorrow. Eventually, exhaustion won. We fell back to sleep, though I kept opening one eye every few minutes, checking the light. It never went out. Morning came heavy and quiet. We packed up quickly and moved toward the valley where the light had been. Neither of us spoke much, both hoping for some ordinary explanation. The forest grew darker as we descended. The trees crowded closer, their branches clawing at our legs and packs. The air was cooler here, damper. I walked a few steps ahead when my boot hit something solid. I looked down and froze. A wooden stake was driven into the earth, cracked halfway up. The ground around it was disturbed, like something had been buried long ago. Then I saw another one, and another. We'd wandered into a clearing full of wooden crosses. There must have been 50 of them. Rough, uneven, some leaning, others almost swallowed by moss. I called out for Taylor, my voice sounding small in the still air. She joined me, her expression hard to read. We walked between the crosses, careful where we stepped. Some had names carved into them, others just dates. Most were faded beyond recognition, but a few stood out. A cluster of 6 in the back corner all carried the same inscription, December 7, 1891. My heart dropped. That was the same year from my grandfather's story. "Maybe a disease," Taylor said quietly. "Cholera or something." I nodded, though I didn't believe it. "If there's anything left of the town," I said, "it has to be close, beyond the graveyard." The ground began to rise again. We climbed the slope until the trees opened up, and then, there it was. The ghost town. It sat on a plateau of hard earth, silent and still. A handful of buildings stood against the wind, cabins, maybe old shops, their wood bleached gray by time. Some had roofs, some didn't. One leaned so far it seemed to defy gravity. Further up the slope, a rusted piece of mining equipment stuck out of the rocks like an old, broken limb. We stood there in silence, taking it in. The air felt heavy, like the mountain itself was holding its breath. Taylor approached the nearest house and gently pushed the door. The hinges snapped, and the door fell forward into the dirt with a dull thud. She stepped inside, her boots crunching on old pine needles. I stayed outside, tracing my fingers along to deep grooves carved into the outer wall. The edges were worn smooth by weather, but something about them felt wrong. Too wide, too deep. What could have made that? I muttered under my breath. "This is so cool," Taylor called from inside, breaking the tension. She wasn't wrong. Inside the cabins were old tables, broken chairs, even a bed frame or two. We found a half-buried glass bottle, its label long gone. We decided to camp here for the night, near the house closest to the cemetery. Tomorrow, we'd climb to the mine. The next morning, we did. The path was rough but manageable, leading to a rusted frame and the remains of a pulley system. A bucket still hung from a bent rail, frozen in time. Beyond it, a dark shaft cut straight into the earth, so deep that the sunlight vanished before it reached the bottom. We threw a rock in, waiting to hear it hit. It never did. Sitting on a rock platform, we watched the valley spread out below. The world looked calm, safe, and impossibly far away. As the sun dipped behind the peaks, we made our way back to camp. That's when I saw it. My red windbreaker lay in the dirt beside a half-collapsed cabin. When we left, it had been packed deep inside my backpack. Our gear was scattered everywhere, clothes thrown across the ground, sleeping bags torn, the gas burner overturned. My backpack had two long, parallel gashes running from top to bottom. I ran my hand over the cuts. The spacing, the shape, they were identical to the grooves I'd seen carved into the cabin wall. Taylor picked up her metal pan. One side was crushed inwards, the metal warped as though someone had gripped it in their fist. "A bear?" she asked, though she didn't sound sure. "Has to be," I said, forcing the words, but even I didn't believe it. I dug through my ruined pack until I found the can of bear mace. At least, we still had that. We scanned the ground for tracks, for anything. And then I saw it, a single footprint pressed deep into the dirt. It was huge. I hovered my foot over it. My shoe was tiny by comparison. But what sent a chill down my spine wasn't the size. It was the shape. It wasn't a paw, it was a foot, and there was no matching print beside it. Whatever had come into our camp had done so onto legs. That night, neither of us slept. Every crack, every whisper of whine through the trees, sounded like something moving thus beyond the light of our fire. When morning finally came, we didn't waste time packing. We just left. As we descended the trail, I looked back one last time. From where we stood, the ghost town was nothing more than a cluster of gray dots against the green of the mountainside. But as the wind shifted, I thought just for a moment that I saw a flicker of yellow light, like a candle burning in a window, the same way it had that first night. Some places don't want to be found, and some stories should never be followed.